Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Vinny Testaverde. Let's get started. Alright, so today's video I'm going to rank the top 10 cornerbacks available in the 2020 NFL Draft. And the reason for this is 2 days ago Mel Kiper Jr. did a radio spot in which he was talking about the top cornerbacks that were going to be coming off the board in this draft this April at the end of the month here. And he one of his main talking points was that after the first two come off the board, the top two rated corners in this draft being Jeffery Okudah and CJ Henderson, that there's no real clear consensus number three, and after that it's pretty much a free-for-all. So I decided to sort of give my take on the top 10 corners that I believe, if I were to make a big board, this is how I would do it. For this particular position. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, and I'll give you my thoughts along the way. So I think another good way to do this, instead of just having a numerical order, I've also broken them down into tiers where I believe there is a gap in talent between tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 and so on and so forth. So I believe in addition to doing a numerical order, it's also important to include a tier gap so that you understand where the gaps in the talent go and how that could change as the draft progresses. All right, so I think you can probably see I have a word bank up here of players. Normally I don't have them in view to start the video, but we don't know how this is going to go, so let's just throw up 12 names on the board. Only got 10 spots, so some people are going to be left out. That's the way it goes. All right, so without further ado, let's get the obvious ones out of the way. Jeffery Okudah from Ohio State is the clear-cut cornerback number 1 in this draft, and then I believe that CJ Henderson is also number 2 in this draft. Now, Jeffery Okudah, I don't really have any complaints, any sort of critiques to offer. I think he's the best one in the draft, and he should be going top 5. CJ Henderson is somebody who I've had a roller coaster type relationship with since last August. If you're familiar with my content last August, he was one of the first prospects that I decided to watch video on. And it was the opening game of the season where he was showcasing some of his poor tackling on run plays. Now, he made up for it later in the game with some lockdown coverage on some red balls, but at the same time, I think I might have been overly critical of CJ Henderson when it comes to that one area of improvement that he needs to make, which is the tackling. And as I said in a previous video, he made a great point at the combine that you don't sign corners to long extensions in the NFL because they're really good at tackling. You sign them because they're really good at coverage, and that's what he's really good at. He's one of the best coverage corners in this draft, and I think his position that where he ends up in this draft is going to reflect that. So I think number 9 to the Jaguars is probably the highest he could probably go. So I'm thinking top 15 minimum for CJ Henderson. All right, moving on to tier 2. This is where some people have differences of opinion, and I'm going to be one of them. But I at least do think that, where is he? I think Christian Fulton from LSU is going to be my corner number 3 in tier 2. It didn't have the greatest of seasons, but then again, I think like him and Grant Delpit, they pretty much knew their draft stock going into their last seasons at LSU, and it wasn't going to get any much better than that, especially when you have Jeffery Okudah and CJ Henderson in the same class. But I think Christian Fulton should be the 3rd corner to come off the board. Next, I'm going to go with Jeff Gladney from TCU, who I've been really high on because I really want the Vikings to get him, because I think his physicality and his style of play really fits Mike Zimmer's defensive scheme and what he wants to do with his secondary. So as the days roll on and more and more gets talked about what's going to happen in the draft, the less I'm seeing analysts and Vikings beat writers project a corner at all in the first round of the Vikings. There's been some mock drafts where they used the 22nd and 25th pick as ammo to move up in a trade. I've seen some people have them take wide receiver and interior offensive line, and then I've seen a couple corners not named Jeff Gladney or Christian Fulton, which is kind of bizarre. Of course, we also need defensive tackle. But I think Jeff Gladney is probably somebody that I definitely see projecting going in the first round. at the latest, I think probably top 40. Really like Jeff Gladney, really good player. Next, I'm going to go with AJ Terrell out of Clemson. And I think Terrell is definitely first-round prospect, definitely top 30. I think if he goes anywhere in the second round, I'd be pretty shocked. I think he's going to play. I think he played himself into the first round, and that's great. It depends on what the need for corner is at the end of the first round and how many teams are going to end up trading out so that other teams can move in, probably get a quarterback like Jordan Love and get that 5th-year extension or that 5th-year option, excuse me. So AJ Terrell's future as a first-round pick kind of depends on a few of those things. Next, the last player I've got in Tier 2, I'm going to go with Damon Arnett from Ohio State. Somebody who I haven't talked about a lot, but I've heard some recent rumors that the Vikings are interested in him. And that kind of shocked me because I figured he was a mid-day 2 type of prospect. So I have moved him up my board, not just because the Vikings are interested, but I'm also hearing a lot of talk from other teams, other writers for other teams, if you will. I don't have channels to other teams. Don't quote me on that, and don't ask me for insider info because I don't have it. So Damon Arnett, we could end up seeing 2 Ohio State corners in the first round. That'd be kind of wild, but I think at this point is the cutoff for first rounders. You could end up seeing 5. I think realistically probably 4. I don't know if you're going to see 6 in the first round. That'd be a little heavy. I don't know if there's enough. I don't know if there's enough draft capital to go around with that. Moving on to Tier 3, I'm going to go with Jalen Johnson. And he's also somebody who I've seen projected to go top 25, but I think the shoulder injury hurts him a little bit. That's going to push him down some boards. You've got some medical red flags, teams not able to do, in-person visits, do private workouts, do any sort of medical things after the combine. So the whole situation that we're in as a country sort of affects these types of players who have injury questions. What is my neighbor doing? Oh, wait, that was a motorcycle that went down the street. Hopefully you guys didn't hear that. Next, I'm going to go with Igbinoghene. I think I pronounced his name right. And it may be a little unfair to put him this low, but I think this is about where he should be, day 2, second round pick. And then we have 2 spots left, but we still got 4 names on the board. I'm going to go with Trayvon Diggs at number 9, corner from Alabama. I was higher on him earlier in the process. He's moved down my board a little bit as others have progressed and impressed me a little bit more. And for whatever reason, according to reports, at least that I've been reading, that Trayvon Diggs has sort of declined in his draft stock recently, and I don't know really what to credit that to. But apparently he's fallen on draft boards a lot, so I guess he's going to fall on mine. And then for my last spot, I'm going to go with Bryce Hall from Virginia. And it's kind of a shame to put him this low, tier 4, 10th overall. But it's really because of the year that was lost due to injury, and I think he has something to prove for that. And also, as I said, the same thing for Jalen Johnson applies for Bryce Hall. You're limited in post-combine interviews and workouts with teams, so they don't have that extra step to evaluate you. It's really hard to really sort of gain anything out other than maybe just, another conversation through FaceTime and Skype calls. So it's difficult for any player that's lower in the positional rankings or just rankings in general to sort of make up ground, smaller schools included in this process. So that's going to be difficult. But that leaves Cam Dantzler and Amik Robinson as the 2 outside the top 10. Still pretty good players. I think you could have them in the 4th, 5th rounds. And you're not getting bad players in that scenario. Maybe a little bit not as polished as somebody going in round 2. All right, so that's my top 10 corners for the NFL 2020 draft. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Just to recap, we have Jeffery, Okudah, CJ Henderson in Tier 1, Christian Fulton, Jeff Gladney, AJ Terrell, and Damon Arnett in Tier 2, Jalen Johnson, Igbinoghene. I'm having trouble still learning that one. And Tier 4, we have Diggs and Bryce Hall. All right, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.